Welcome into this edition of the Oxford Exxon podcast. I'm Neal McCready. Today on the show, Ben Mintz of Barstool Sports joins me. We will talk about the weekend ahead in college football. It's championship week, starting with two games tonight, Conference USA, Pac-12. Play tonight, everything else on the slate for tomorrow. We'll talk about all of those games with Ben, and then we'll also look ahead to the weekend coming up in the National Football League. First, I'll tell you that this is the Oxford Exxon podcast, the Oxford Exxon Highway 6 West in Oxford. Stop by the Oxford Exxon, fill up your vehicle, fill yourself up, get the ribs. Also, check out the beer cooler, 34 degrees of sudsy goodness. You can go in there and get stocked up for the weekend if you're having some tailgating parties, or not tailgate parties, but watch parties or whatever the case may be, as you kind of keep up with what's going on in college football. Get ready for Sunday's selection show. We'll find out which bowl game Ole Miss is headed to later this month or first of next month here as we record on December the 1st. So we'll do that. Don't forget the Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford. They've been sponsoring the show for more than 10 years now, so please show your appreciation to them. I'm in the Clark Ford Studios. Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900. Call that number. Ask for Corey Clark. Let Corey know what Ford product you're interested in. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. Right to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. You get your quote. The rest, completely up to you. You can shop that quote around. You can do what I've done, what I recommend that you do, and that's hop into a Clark Ford today. 662-257-1900. Guests, including Ben Mintz, join on the Campbell Clinic hotline. The Campbell Clinic is in Oxford now, 2608 South Lamar Boulevard, Suite 102. Just across the street from the cottages at Hooper Hollow, the Campbell Clinic provides full-service orthopedic care. Everything from sports medicine to foot and ankle surgery to spine and total joint care to pediatric orthopedics, physical therapy, and more. To book an appointment, go to campbellclinicoxford.com or call 901-759-3111. Walk-ins always welcome at the Campbell Clinic, Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m., and all of our coverage here at MPW Digital this entire football season has been brought to you by Twisted Tea. Are you ready to elevate your college football game day experience? Check out Twisted Tea. It's your go-to game day beverage for college football fans. Twisted Tea is unlike any hard beverage you've had before. It's made with real brewed tea, packs a flavorful punch, 5% alcohol, no carbonation, delivering the perfect balance of taste and refreshment that goes down smooth for every game day occasion. There's no need to settle for the usual. Twisted Tea turns up any occasion, especially when you're cheering for your favorite team. Whether you're tailgating in the stadium parking lot, watching at a bar, or hosting friends at home, Twisted Tea is there to elevate game day experience. It perfectly complements your love for college football, your passion for creating unforgettable moments. So let's toast to unforgettable game day experiences with Twisted Tea, the drink that fuels fun and celebrates your love for college football. Keep it twisted. So now we'll go to the Campbell Clinic hotline and my visit with Ben Mintz from earlier this week. Ben Mintz, Barstool Sports, joins here on this extra edition of the Oxford Exxon podcast. Ben, how are you?
I'm doing well, Neal. Getting about a month in to the new adventure in Chicago. And I got to tell you, I'm freezing my butt off this week. This is for the Southern boy, it's 20 degrees with a -5 wind chill, and we're not even in December yet. It could be a long winter for the team. But if that's my only complaint, we're doing better than most.
Yeah, the wind hits different there when it's cold off the lake and it gets really chilly. I've been there a number of times in the winter for like Cubs convention or Saints Bears NFC title game. I've been up there a bunch of times in the winter, and it's different. But I do think you sort of adjust to it. I know people say you don't, but I think you do kind of figure. I think you figure out how to dress in it and when to get out and how to maneuver, and you'll do fine. You've made it through worse.
Yeah, no, and I think it's all just a matter of perspective. And it's like an $8 Uber to work from my place every day. It's not like I have to even be outside much. So, but so far, I will say this before getting anything, just quick Chicago update stuff. Everybody that's been following this the last 3 or 4 years, it's never been better than right now in every way. The new Chicago office is incredible. a lot of our favorite Barstool people are here. The work vibe it's a lot different vibe than New York. New York's just inherently kind of a toxic place, and uh, there's none of that here in this office. I also, I'm super excited. I know Neal and I sometimes talk about the health stuff on here. I'm running the St. Jude half marathon. I'm driving to Memphis Friday, running the St. Jude half marathon on Saturday, which I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, this is a huge deal to me. I fought this health thing off and on my whole life.
Totally.
I've been working my ass off for this. And I mean, I'll be honest, the hay's in the barn. I'm not even phased by it. This is the best shape I've maybe ever been in. And, I'm not sitting here saying I'm going to run a 2-hour marathon. I'm going to probably run like a 10-minute pace, shooting for like 210 to 215. But I know I can do it. The weather looks like mid-50s, which looks reasonable. I'm hoping it doesn't rain, but if it does, whatever. Just excited for the St. Jude thing on my journey. Then I'm going to be doing some fundraising. We're going to drop a fundraising link here. If you want to donate to St. Jude for this half, I would appreciate it. If you don't, no big deal. I feel like between hogs and brick watch and stuff, I feel like I'm asking for money all the time. So I'm not going to like overpressure people on it. But yeah, and then I'm coming to Oxford Saturday, right after the half. I'm going to the Memphis Ole Miss game at 1 in the Pavilion, and I'm super pumped about that because, look at the effort on ESPN2 against NC State. All of a sudden, we got some momentum with this Ole Miss basketball program, don't we?
Yeah, for sure. All right. You're going to run it on Saturday. What's the longest training run you've done so far?
I did 10.7 in New Orleans about 5-6 weeks ago.
Yep.
And I did it fine. Like, the thing is with me, and everybody's blessed differently. Like, I'm not like a sprinter or nothing, but man, I can run 10 or 11-minute miles till forever.
Here's going to be my advice to you for 13.1 with all the people, and you're going to get this adrenaline pump that's it's kind of different. I mean, I've run a few, and so especially my first one, I ran my first one in Chicago back in 2014, I guess, and you're so juiced when it finally is time to go, and there's all these people around you, and there's all this energy, because for everybody, right there, for everybody, it's a different accomplishment for whatever, and that you feel it, you sense it. Don't worry about your time on this one. It doesn't matter, and so don't do that to yourself, because that can kind of get you in some trouble, because it'll make you run some middle miles faster than you meant to run them. And then you get to like 8, 9, 10 miles, and you're a little more spent than you wanted to be, or you're not feeling great and you can't kind of enjoy it. Don't worry about your time. Just run what's comfortable to you, and then as you get going, you're like, if you, in your case, when you get to like 10 or 11 miles, if you got a lot of juice in you at that point, well, now you can speed up and you can try to make up some time. But don't worry about your time early in the run, because that's how you screw it up. Trust me, I've done it. I did it in California.
Okay.
I was running a marathon, and I felt really good. Looking back, it was because I had an injury and I was all juiced up on steroids for it. But I ran the first 6 miles way too fast. I was cruising, man, and then I paid for it in the middle miles, and by the end of that run, I just felt terrible. So, and then I did the opposite in one in Minnesota. I took my time, even though I felt great. I just ran my pace,
Okay.
and about 22 miles, I was like, shit, I'm good. And I picked it up and just started passing people and finished it really strong and felt good about it. So that everybody's different, but that's my advice to you.
Okay, well, I think my strategy going in, like, I'm going to kind of treat the first 3 or 4 miles as just like a warm up, and that's kind of the way you mentally break it up. Like, the first 3 or 4 is just kind of warm up, and then I usually catch runners high 2 or 3 miles in. I'm going to let it rip the last mile, I'm sure. But as you said, it's not about the time. I mean, I'm 40 years old, about to run a half marathon, and right when COVID hit, before Barstool and all that, I mean, I was almost 300 pounds 3.5 years ago. And so this thing could be 230, 215, whatever. I'm a winner out here doing this.
Absolutely.
And
the accomplishment's doing it. It's finishing it. It's doing it. It's showing up. It's the hardest. I'm super jealous that you're able to run right now. I really can't run right now with my knee, but it's a hell of an accomplishment. I wish that, looking back on it when I did it, I wish I had allowed myself that, because it was it was definitely an accomplishment. It's not like it's this athletic feat. The truth is about marathons is it's a mental feat. It's a because all that training, there's nobody there on the training. The marathon's fun. The half marathon's fun. There's people everywhere. You have people around. People are cheering for you. When you're doing the 10-mile training run, there's nobody cheering for you. It's just you. You're just
Yeah, no, I found out so much about my character through this. I've been listening to a lot of the Joe Rogan and David Goggins stuff during all that. It's just helped my outlook to like callous your mind. And, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to know I went through a lot of stuff this year that was very public and, listening to a lot of that. And I've just channeled it all through this health stuff the last 6 months. And I always say this all the time. Every time something bad happens to me, it ends up being a blessing. It's just all how you look at it. And I'm just super excited. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like I'm gonna cry, I'm sure, when I go run through the campus and all the kids that are being treated for cancer out there cheering you on. And this is gonna be a real like emotional deal, and in the best way. And I can't wait. And looking forward to getting to Oxford too. It's gonna be a great weekend.
And you're right about basketball. Chris Beard has changed in short order. Look, people are. I think it's funny. I think it kind of ties into running marathons and half marathons. It's not most people get it. There are a few people that are out there that are going, hey, how far in the tournament can this team go? And I'm like, nah, it's not. This season's not really about results. This is about process and about starting a build. And who knows? Maybe they catch fire and become Cinderella and make the tournament and whatever. But you can. I was at the NC State game. The bigger story to me than beating NC State by 20 was what the arena was starting to feel like. That arena hasn't felt like that in a long time. I mean, it's been since probably Kermit Davis's first season, a handful of games where that arena kind of had a buzz to it. It's been sort of dead the last few years. And it had the beginning of some buzz on Tuesday night against NC State. To me, that was a much bigger story than Jamin Brakefield going for 25 and them putting some things together offensively. Because, look, we'll see what kind of team they are over time. We'll learn a lot on Saturday against Memphis. But even if they lose by 20 to Memphis, for example, I'm not going to go, oh, well, that's that. There's a build that's happening. There's a buzz around them. It's palpable. And the guy's just really, really good, Chris Beard. He's really good at really every aspect of that job, and you can see it. The improvement from game 1 to game 6, and just the change in the atmosphere in the building from game 1 to game 6 was really apparent.
Yeah, I think the thing too, when you analyze the fan thing with Ole Miss basketball, shout out to the Club Red. I think the student section is the heartbeat of this. Because when you've got these Tuesday night, Wednesday night games, even in SEC, it's all on the students because Oxford's not that big, and your alumni from Jackson and Memphis, and people that come up on weekends for football games can't get here on Tuesday and Wednesday nights for a 2-hour basketball game in the middle of the work week. So it's literally all about the students and everyone locally just going all in for these weeknight games. And shout out to the student section. I thought they were great last night. And kind of talking a little bit more about what you were saying on Chris Beard. Look, getting Chase, how do you say it?
Musa Cisse.
Cisse. Okay, my bad. I hate mispronouncing names. I feel bad. But getting Musa Cisse was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year eligible. The rim protection last night, 9 block shots. This team's going to play defense. They got great coaching. They're going to play hard. It's just going to come down to Ken Brakefield, who had a great game last night with 25, and Morrell and Murray and, obviously Alan Flanagan. They're going to have to score. It's all about, can they score enough? Because I think the defense and all that's going to be there and the effort's going to be there. It's just, is there enough firepower? But regardless, it's exciting. And, 6-0, I know they won a lot of close games early, but that was a good win winning on the road by 1 at Temple. That's like a culture thing, pulling out those close games. And, blowing out NC State, I'm super excited. Chris Beard and I have a great relationship. We text all the time. He's been hammering me about when am I going to get in there for a game. So we're going to do it Saturday at 1. And, also shout out anybody that hadn't joined the Grove Collective stuff. Not just is it helping Lane, it's helping Chris Beard get these transfers. And, I think the more people continue to support the NIL, the better it's going to be for this basketball program.
All right, so championship weekend is here. A couple of games on Friday. New Mexico State's 10.5-point dog at Liberty. And then, of course, the Pac-12 championship that has major playoff ramifications. Oregon, a 9.5-point favorite at this point against Washington there in Las Vegas. Any thoughts on either of those?
Yeah, I got some thoughts. I know Liberty's a 12-0 or whatever, but man, the way New Mexico State's playing, I got to take the 10.5. I mean, they go on the road, they win at Auburn, they beat a good Jacksonville State team at home, 20-17 last week, and you want to talk. It's one of those things, man, where people don't care enough about the G5, and I get all that, but how the hell do you win at New Mexico State? That's a harder job than UL Monroe because at least in Louisiana you got talent. I mean, you got nothing in. Where is it, Las Cruces or whatever?
Yeah.
And Jerry Kill, who's the former Northern Illinois coach, who did a great job there, and then he got in the health problems in Minnesota. I mean, unsung coaching job of a lifetime here. And they won at Liberty as a 24-point underdog into the year last year. So, that was when Freeze was on the way out. That win at Auburn, I just think they're hot. And so give me a double-digit underdog there. I'm not sure they win, but I just can't see them getting blown out with the momentum they've got going in. So I'm going to take them in the points in that first game. In the Oregon-Washington game, a lot to talk about just with this point spread. Because, we one of the things we talk about when we analyze the gambling on here is, I always get weirded out when Vegas comes out with a line that's 3 points higher than I think it'll be. And I thought Oregon would be 6 or 6.5 here. I thought they'd be favored because I get their power rankings better and all that. But Washington's kind of one of those teams. Vegas has had a low power ranking on them all year. I mean, they were catching points at Oregon State a couple weeks ago. And maybe I'm wrong here and buying into the sucker thing, but I'm leaning to taking the 9.5 here. I think this is going to be a close game. Oregon might win, but that's a lot of points. And I also have an opinion on the total. The over-under at 65.5. I think it's too high. And I know everybody thinks Pac-12, you think shootouts, and the first game was 38-34, whatever. But Washington's evolved as a football team as this year has gone on. At the beginning of the year, they were just chunking it deep. Penix lighting up. They're running the ball a lot more, and they're a lot more balanced now, and their defense is playing better. And I think in a conference title game when both teams are seeing each other for the second time and the pressure's on, I don't think this is quite as likely to be a shootout as people think. And so I'm going under 65.5 here. I think it's a game that's 31-28 or 27-24 or something like that. But I'm going to take Washington plus 9.5 in the under in this one.
Interesting. It's a lot of good points. I hadn't thought about that. That made me think on both of those games. All right, Big 12 game. Texas. Why Texas is not getting more talk about a playoff spot in the 4 is beyond me, but it looks like they're stuck. Texas a 15.5-point favorite over Oklahoma State there in Arlington Saturday morning.
Texas is going to kill this team. And Oklahoma State, you got to give Mike Gundy. I mean, this is the same team in week 2 or 3 that lost 33-7 at home to South Alabama. And people were like, what the hell is going on with this football program? And to come back from that and win Oklahoma and win Mike Gundy and the coaching job this year. But having said that, they're still not that good. I mean, you saw them get wiped out at UCF. They had to come back from a huge deficit at home against BYU. And when you look at the matchup in this game, obviously Sark has done great things at Texas, but the thing he's really done is they've been soft as hell for years, the line of scrimmage. And I always thought it was because of the 7-on-7 flag football culture or 7-on-7 culture. I don't know what it is, but Sark's finally got some elite offensive linemen in there that are sophomores, and then their front 7 on defense is elite against the run. So if you're going to beat Texas, you got to do it in the air. Well, Oklahoma State this year, they got the great ground game with that running back. I think Texas matches up with that. I think they got them outclassed all over the field, and I think they beat the crap out of them. Yeah, and they're going to try to win it up for the playoff thing.
And they're pissed off because they feel like they're disrespected, and I don't really
and
blame them.
They kind of should be a little mad, though.
Yeah.
I mean, just the Ohio, I don't know. My thing with this playoff ranking, the Big Ten's getting way too much credit this year. Like, Ohio State's still 6, Michigan's 2. And they ain't played nobody. Ohio State did. Give them credit. They won that Notre Dame game non-conference. I'll give them credit for that. But those Big Ten teams, I mean, you're basically playing Penn State and then Ohio State and Michigan play each other. It's almost like a 2-game conference schedule. You don't have any week-to-week tough games when you're playing Maryland and Indiana. And I don't know. It's just such a joke that they're getting this much credit when they've played such weak. The thing about getting through the SEC, you're getting through Auburn and A&M, and every week you're getting tested. And the Big Ten, it's like they're playing, non-conference G5 games except for 2 or 3 games a year. And so I don't know. I think it's kind of a shame.
I think it's weird. All right, a couple of lower profile games. Just get your thoughts if you have any. Miami and Toledo.
I got absolutely nothing on the MAC. The
Okay.
MAC's my one. The only thing I know about the MAC is I like the Ohio quarterback, and that's my MAC analysis.
So Toledo's a 7.5-point favorite in that one. Boise State and UNLV in the Mountain West championship game in Las Vegas. Barry Odom's done a great job with the run-in Rebels. They are a 2.5-point home dog at Allegiant Saturday afternoon.
I like you. Okay, this is one of those things that's interesting because is UNLV ready to win this conference championship in year one under Odom? And I forgot their offensive coordinator's name, but he's done an awesome job too. But it's kind of one of those things. Are they ready to win this? But I still think I like them because Boise this year, and you got to give them credit, they're in the Mountain West title game. But, man, they've really morphed into that team that's, like, really good at home on the blue turf, and then they're weak on the road. And that's just kind of what they are now. And so I think UNLV, I mean, how many bandwagon fans are coming out the woodwork to support UNLV in this game, too? I bet all of Vegas is going to, like no one went to games. I bet everybody's going to show up for this one. And so I'm going to take UNLV as a 2.5-point home dog here. I don't love it. Like I said, it's just the only thing is Boise's used to being in the spot. UNLV might be a little nervous, but the fact they're at home getting 2.5, and I think, Boise, I mean, they're 7-5. They're not like some super elite team. They got a good running game, but their passing game's a little weak. So I'm going to go UNLV here, smaller.
Georgia and Alabama, the SEC title game, the two programs that have been at the top of the league for years now. They're back again. Georgia, 5.5-point favorite over Alabama there in Atlanta.
This one, all right. Obviously, we got a ton of stuff to get into here. I think one of the biggest things analyzing this is something we talk about on here all the time is not overreacting on the week-to-week thing. And those Bama games at Auburn are always like that, always. And so everybody, I think this line went from Georgia by 4.5 to 5.5 or 6 off Bama, scoring in the fourth and goal from the 31. But I don't think you slight Bama for that effort as much as other people are. Like, I just think that's one of those rivalry games on the road that no matter what, it's going to be tough, and it is what it is. I think the key to this Georgia-Bama game is we got a couple of super key things to watch. Bama, it's all on Jalen Milroe's mobility because this game, being indoors on a fast track, his legs can be the great equalizer that keeps Alabama in this football game, that mobility. I think that's something you got to account for. And then on the other side of it, Bama's pass rush is super elite. We all saw what happens when Carson Beck gets a lot of time in the pocket in that Ole Miss game. Can Bama get a lot of heat on him? My instincts like Bama in the points here. I'm not saying – I don't know if they'll win, but I just think Bama's going to fight. I think Milroe can make enough plays to keep them in it. And I think this is going to be another one of classic games in this rivalry. And I think people are kind of – I don't know. My instincts, like I said, my instincts like Bama in the points here. I'm not saying I love it, but Bama was a 6.5-point underdog in this SEC championship game 2 years ago when they won 41-24 with Bryce Young. I think you don't catch a spot where you catch Saban as an underdog much. And I also, like I said, the overvaluing of the Auburn thing. I think Bama's going to fight is what I think. What do you think? I want to hear what you think on this one.
I don't know. I have no consistent read on this game. I think Georgia's the better team.
I do too.
I don't think Georgia has been super tested. I don't think that's completely fair to say about them, but it's kind of my gut feeling about them a little bit. Milroe has evolved into a very good quarterback. Beginning of the season, he was a liability. Middle of the season, he was just this guy that, hey, don't lose. And now he's become a weapon for them. They have weapons at receiver. I like McClellan at running back. I think he's had a really good year. And defensively, it's the best defense probably that Georgia will have seen so far this season.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, like I said, the pass rush there.
And then when they win that crazy game the other day at Auburn, the 4th and 31, and it happens, and I get mad at myself because I always tell myself that stuff's not real. Stop. Don't buy it. You start going, was that destiny? Was that weird stuff that happens sometimes that you're like, well, what was that? Like, well, how'd that happen? And that's kind of stuck with me a little bit. Like on I do these 5 picks with Siski, and I don't think this is going to be one of my 5 games. I think I'm going to leave it alone.
I just think it's also, too, when you're analyzing gambling, sometimes you just keep it simple, and you're like, man, I don't know what's going to happen in this game, so give me the freaking 6 points, know?
Yeah.
Like, win it out, take the points. I think that's also a factor. And then another thing, this is like a deep dive on it. A lot of times these championship games, like look for a slower start in the first half, and I think this thing could get kind of wild in the second half when the pass rushes slow down and they get tired of chasing Milroe. So the over-under is 53.5. Like I would slightly lean over, but what I'm looking more for here specifically is if it's 10-7 somebody at half, then I'm banging the second half over at halftime because I think like the defenses, it'll start slower and then pick up. And I think you kind of see that in college football a lot. But Neal, while we're at it, last thing, boy, you know the committee wants Georgia to win because Bama wins this game. This playoff situation is,
it gets nutty. It gets nutty. Like, I don't know how. I've been saying this all week. If Bama wins and Texas wins, I don't know how Texas gets left out.
My thing on that, and I got a lot of heat with people on Twitter on it, and I get that head-to-head absolutely has to matter, but, man, that's week 2. Step back in September, I know that it has to matter, but, Milroe wasn't even, he was barely the starter at that point. And, you look at the way Bama's closed, and if they beat Georgia, I just think the win over Georgia with them having not lost a regular season game in 2 full years, I just think beating Georgia is the biggest win by any team all year.
And I get it. I just, boy, the head-to-head thing. So when they were saying, okay, so the games in September don't matter as much as the ones in November. It's like,
I don't think they do, but maybe that's just me.
Well,
that's just my thoughts.
Here's my deal. Then be transparent and say it out loud. Say the truth out loud. Say, hey, the early part of your schedule, we have a forgiveness that's built in.
Well, you've seen teams lose 1 or 2 and come back from losing in September to make playoffs and championship, and you don't see them lose in November usually. Ohio State did last year, but you usually.
What I'm saying? They do this deal where they're like, well, we don't do that. Everything is resume. Is it really? Because it doesn't look like it's resume.
No, and they openly say it's like they judge
injury. Real. Let's be real. Ole Miss is being punished. I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but we can talk. They talk around it. They're being punished because Georgia beat them by 5 scores, and if you watch the game, it looked like Georgia could have beaten them by 8 scores. You watch that, and that's why Ole Miss is not in the Access Bowl as of this moment.
Yeah, Missouri, and the fact that Missouri lost by 9 to them the week before.
That's all it is.
No, everybody's just eye testing it.
And they should say, no, we did the eye test. Instead of going, well, we ran these numbers. No, you eye tested.
Yeah, but Ole Miss beat LSU and Missouri lost to LSU.
Yeah, and so, and then they do the injury thing, and what a team looks like now, and I don't know.
All BS. All it makes me happy is that there's a 12-teamer next year, and I saw Ross Dillinger posted last night. Ole Miss would be the 11th seed.
Yeah,
going to Ohio State. Think about how different our conversation would be right now if we were talking about this.
Totally different. All right, we've got for Ole Miss purposes, this is a big game. If you're holding out hope for a Cotton Bowl, you really need Tulane to beat SMU. It's in New Orleans. Tulane's giving 3.5. It would be a stand up as Tulane. In the event that they do this thing at the end where they go, okay, we have all the resumes, let's look at them. A win over Tulane in New Orleans is big, especially if Tulane's the group of 5 rep.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one. So this line just went down from 5.5 to 3.5. We're a few days out. SMU's quarterback, Stone, who's been really good. I'm not sure what his injury status is right now. And so if he's out, I really like Tulane. But the fact that the line just went down 2 points makes me think he may be playing. Thing with Tulane, though, we saw it in that Ole Miss game. They got an SEC-level defense. Man, they are tough up front. Ole Miss couldn't run the ball on them. They ran for 85 yards in that game. And, as high-powered as SMU's offense has been this year, my instincts like Tulane. They're 23-3 in their last 26. They're at home here. And if that SMU quarterback, Stone, who was a big 5-star recruit, who's played really well this year for Rhett Lashley, if he's banged up at all, he's the reason SMU has a shot. I just think Tulane's a tougher, more physical football team. And I think they're going to get this done in Nolan.
App State's at Troy. John Summerall's done just a phenomenal job at Troy. Troy giving 6 at home for the Sun Belt Championship.
I saw real quick comment on John Summerall. If Stoops had taken A&M, he was getting Kentucky.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this one's weird. So App State's 8-4, but they got a lot of momentum. They came in, they won at James Madison, and you look at App State historically, they're one of those teams that, man, they're always a tough underdog. Always. But sometimes when they're favored, they'll lose. But they're one of those teams, when you give them points, they fight. So my instincts are they fight here, but I don't have a strong enough read to take them because, like you said, Troy's just such a good defense, and Summerall's done such a good job. He's trying to win back-to-back conference championships here, and they're at home. So I'm giving you the long-winded answer of not knowing. 52.5 might seem high for a Troy game, though, with how good Troy's defense is.
Yeah, for sure. I don't hate the under at 52.5.
I also think conference championship games, I'm not saying they always go under, but when the stakes are this high and stuff, I feel like it's not like auto shootouts like it is week to week in the season sometimes.
The game that everyone's watching, I think it's the game that has the most sort of interest for how this could shape the Final Four. ACC title game in Charlotte. It's Louisville, Florida State. Florida State's a 2.5-point favorite. The Noles looked very, as the kids say, mid against Florida the other day. Louisville gets beat by Kentucky at home. It's a weird spot, kind of for both teams.
It is. I like the under a lot in this game. I saw the way Florida State's backup quarterback looked last week. He was 12 for 25. They had to rely on the running game in the second half and their defense. Louisville's had, I know Louisville's defense didn't play that well against Kentucky, but it has played pretty well this year. I think their defense will keep them in it. But I think Florida State, I know everybody's just bagging on them, and I get it, but their defense is good too. And I just think this is kind of a game that's going to be like 21-17 somebody. I just don't see how this breaks out into a shootout. And I think Florida State's going to try to protect their backup quarterback, not have him throwing tons. They're going to run the ball, try to rely on their defense. And so I don't have an opinion on the Florida State 2.5. I kind of think they gut it out, but the under 47.5 is where I'm looking here. And it's going to be one of my bigger plays of the week. I hope Florida State wins, though, because I do want to say this about them with the playoff thing. Look, I get they're probably not one of the best 4 teams, but you can't punish them because it's one thing if you go undefeated in the ACC, but they scheduled LSU and Florida non-conference. They tried. Michigan didn't play nobody. And
you're right.
For them to play, they play. They always play Florida because it's their rival. But for them to schedule LSU week 1 and Florida and the ACC, if you get through that undefeated, I just don't know how you can screw them. But we'll see, because when it comes down to it and the committee gets down to it, Georgia, Texas, or Georgia, Ohio State is going to be a lot sexier of a matchup in New Orleans, and Georgia against Florida State's backup quarterback for money and all that. So it's going to be tough.
No, you're right. You're right. It's a really weird deal, because if Travis were healthy, we wouldn't be talking about it, but he's not, and they don't look the same. And this is where the committee's failure to just be transparent hurts them. All right. Big Ten.
Like I said, the last thing I come back to it. It's just you can't punish them when they schedule that LSU week 1 in Florida because they tried. They didn't do the cream puff thing, and I think that has got to be the final when you get down to it. Be like, look,
Yep. Michigan and Ohio State, the Big Ten title game in Indianapolis. Not Michigan, Ohio State. Michigan, Iowa. Iowa getting 22 versus the Wolverines.
The funniest part on this, Neal, so I don't, if you saw this, did you see Iowa's over-under for points in the first half in this game?
0.5.
Yeah. Pretty funny. Iowa's got no chance in this football game. The one thing about the Big Ten title game analysis that I've been nailing for years is this game being in Indianapolis in a dome, it always screws Iowa or Wisconsin or whoever comes out of that West, because when you put this game in 72 degrees on a fast track, Ohio State or Michigan always has such an athleticism advantage. But when the game's like outdoor and 30-degree weather, maybe Iowa or Wisconsin can muck it up and fight, but they can't match up with the athletes indoors. So they just can't. Even at 22 or 23, I still lean Michigan here. I think they win like 34-3. I just don't see how this is a game. Iowa is going to have to block a punt, create some turnovers, all that kind of stuff, but I just can't see it.
And Michigan plays with such an edge.
And it's going to be a party for Michigan in this game, getting Harbaugh back, getting through the last 3. Like, this is kind of feels like a celebration of life game for them. I think
I tend to agree. That might be the game that I like the most on the whole board.
Yeah, I wonder what the first half line, if you can get that. I hadn't seen the lines yet, but if you can get it under 14 first half, if you can get it 13.5 or less, I'll be looking at first half here too.
All right, let's dive into the NFL. I got a week in the NFL. I went 4-1 in the NFL last week.
Good, because my picks I gave you were just 0-3, so that makes me happy. I won money for the 11th Sunday out of 12, though.
Good for you.
I'll say this: my over-unders have been stone cold. I mean, that's really where I've been getting it. It's more the over-unders than the actual games. But, I've been betting on football like 24 years now. I've never won money 11 out of 12 Sundays. So I mean, this is pretty sweet.
So the Thursday game in the event that airs on Thursday, the Seahawks, a 9-point dog at Dallas. We won't spend a lot of time here because this probably doesn't air till Friday, and by the time people hear it, the game's in the history books. Any big thoughts on it though?
My thing, Seattle does fight hard usually as an underdog, but I don't think Geno's that healthy with his elbow deal. And he looked really bad against the Niners last week. And Dallas has just been killing people at home. Also, the 47.5 total, all these Dallas home games have gone over all year. It's kind of weird, but like the games get a little higher scoring in Dallas than you think. So, I mean, I even wet 9, I lean Dallas just because of Geno not looking all that good.
All right, the Sunday games, the Dolphins go to Washington. The Dolphins covered a big line last week. It's 9.5 on the road this week. Dolphins favored by 9.5.
Yeah, this is tough because the way I like to gamble, I don't like laying 9 or 10 on the road. The Commanders did make a great move, finally firing Jack Del Rio and their secondary coach, though, and that's been needing to happen for a long time. You look at that. I know Chase Young's gone and Montez Sweat's gone, but you look at the amount of capital they put in that front seven and all the first-round picks. For them to be as bad, one of the worst teams in the NFL on defense, all the, how much of the resources they pour into that, it's like inexcusable. Having said all that, I don't really have too strong of an opinion. If the weather's okay, I might go over 49.5, but it's too early to tell on that.
Weird game in New Orleans, man. Weird game. The Lions go to New Orleans. The Lions were awful on Thanksgiving Day. The Saints were not particularly better later in the week. It's the Lions as a 4-point road favorite in New Orleans.
Man, so the Lions look like a rat line to me here. All the Saints fans, including myself, obviously extremely upset after that. You come out of a bye against your arch rival and you get 5 field goals. Like that effort at Atlanta, especially with all the hatred and the Saints-Falcons rivalry. I mean, the Saints fan base is down this week as I've seen in a long time. But I almost feel like it makes the Lions too public. And the Lions, I mean, you kind of said it. Look, I mean, they might be 8-3, but their defense is sucking. Goff is turning the ball over. He's regressing. They've won a ton of close games. I mean, they're really kind of like a 5 or 6 win team that's run hot. So I don't know how. I mean, it's hard to like the Saints, but Saints are nothing in this one. The Saints receiving core is extremely banged up. Olave got a concussion. Hopefully he can go because if he's out, the offense is going to struggle. But Derek Carr, I mean, I made a joke. His field vision, I think Stevie Wonder might be able to see the field better than he can. I mean, it's unbelievable.
You're talking me into Lions right now, and I want to avoid this game so bad, but I don't know.
I mean, it's just this Derek Carr thing. He makes he makes 1 or 2 throws a game where he just doesn't see people, and you just like, what's he seeing? And then you see this stat. The most damning stat on the Saints right now. Last 32 drives, they have 3 total touchdowns. 2 of them were Jameis, and Taysom Hill scored 1. And it's just a really frustrating time with the Saints right now as a fan because there's just no identity. There's no identity. You got Cam Jordan and Demario Davis and Badger at the very ends of their primes playing their hearts out on defense. But the O-line's bad. Carr's clearly not the answer. Dennis Allen's not the answer. Pete Carmichael's not. And it's just it's not good. There's no getting around it.
All right, Chargers and Patriots in New England. The Chargers just a massive disappointment, but they've been predictable for me. I've done well picking Chargers games. They're a 6-point favorite in Foxborough.
There's just no way I can lay 6 on the road with the Chargers the way they're playing football right now. I know they covered against the Jets, but, God, how do you take New England either? How about we'll just take the under? 41.5 seems too high because this could be, this could be another ugly one.
Arizona's in Pittsburgh. The Cardinals getting 5.5 on the road against a Steelers team that's getting better and better week after week, especially on defense.
I like Pittsburgh a lot here, and I know they usually don't cover as a favorite, but I think something happened last week in Cincinnati that people aren't seeing. Like, everybody sees that 16-7 final score and just thinks it's the same old Pittsburgh, but they finally fired Matt Canada last week, who was the worst offensive coordinator in the NFL, and he stunk going all the way back to LSU in 2017. I couldn't believe he was calling plays in the NFL. And last week, while they scored 16 points, on the surface, if you didn't watch the game, you're like, oh, same old Pittsburgh. Well, they had over 400 yards last week.
Yeah.
They've been getting out. This is the first game last week all year where they outgained their opponent. And so I think the offense is actually improving, and people don't see it because they only scored 16. And I just think, Kyler Murray in a cold weather game at Pittsburgh, I mean, this just isn't what Arizona's designed for. So I like Pittsburgh here in this game.
Denver at Houston. The Texans really need to get back on the winning track. They give 3.5 to Denver.
This Sean Payton situation. I mean, they were 1-5 5 or 6 weeks ago. They allowed 70 points to Miami. They look like the worst team in the NFL. How has he dragged this bunch to 5 in a row?
Because he
went old
he's
school.
That good, Ben.
Yeah, and also, I respect this in this day and age. He said the hell with this. He's getting the malcontents and Frank Clark and Randy Gregory who've had bad attitudes everywhere they've gone. He's just like, don't care. Cut, trade, get the hell out of here. I don't care if you're talented or not. We got to have a winning culture. And look how it's turned out. To win 5 in a row, you win at Buffalo Monday night. They beat the Chiefs. I mean, unbelievable coaching job. And obviously, the Saints fan in me, it's a little sad, but he gave us 16 years. This game, Houston, I still think Houston's good. I think D'Amico Ryan, I know they lost that tough one last week and the field goal went off the crossbar, but I love C.J. Stroud. Be on the lookout for Bobby Slovic, that offensive coordinator who's off the Shanahan tree. I wouldn't be surprised to see him be the next one off the Shanahan tree getting looks for how well he's developed C.J. Stroud to be head coach. But having said that, I just think Denver's fighting so hard, man. I'm thinking I have to get to 3.5 here. I just think it's going to be another game.
Falcons coming off the big win over New Orleans. They go to New York to play the Jets. They do it as a 2.5-point favorite.
I mean, this is just the over-under is 33.5, and I still like the under as long as Ritter's playing. I mean, it's just I think the Falcons are going to win like 16-10, just an ugly, crappy game. I do think they pull it out, but I think I'm going to bet under. This Jets thing is just.
They're horrible.
I say it on this podcast, too, because it's the Ole Miss thing. I think Chad Kelly must be blackballed from the NFL, huh? I mean, we've come to this conclusion. It's pretty obvious because for him to win basically Player of the Year in Canada, and you're telling me he's not better than Tim Boyle and Zach Wilson and some of the stuff the Jets are trotting out, he must be blackballed. Like, there's no explanation for him to not get a shot for the Jets at this point, if not.
Yeah, I don't hate the under, and I mean I don't hate Atlanta. I know you're not supposed to take the road dog.
No, but the Jets are dead. No, I get it. They're done.
And the Falcons are playing for something.
I think Arthur Smith, even though his record's not great, I don't think he's a bad coach. I really don't.
A game that only if you're watching this one, man, you either love football or you are a diehard fan of one of these teams. The Colts are 1-point favorite at Tennessee. Colts
are 6-5 in the wild card race somehow. I mean, you got to give Shane Steichen, who was the Eagles' offensive coordinator last year. Richardson gets hurt, dragging Minch. You got to give him credit just for how hard they're fighting. I like the under in this game. I know you're the big Will Levis guy, but I think things are kind of trending back to reality here with him the last few weeks. And I think 42.5 is high. Like Indy does play higher scoring games at home, but on the road, Jonathan Taylor's out, but I think they're going to run the ball with Moss, and this is going to be like a physical, close division game. I don't have an opinion on the point spread.
Okay. Another division game, Carolina's at Tampa Bay. The Panthers getting 5.5 after the shakeup this week with Frank Reich.
So a lot of times you see the interim bump where teams get fired up to play for the interim, like when you look at the Raiders with the McDaniels thing. But I actually don't think that's the case here in Carolina. I don't think Frank Reich was the problem. The problem is the lack of talent and their management picking Bryce Young over C.J. Stroud. And they also traded DJ Moore and gutted their resources to get him. And so I don't think Carolina turns it around with promoting the interim. And Tampa's 4-7, but I actually don't think they're awful. Like, they're not good. Total must-win game for them. They're only a game back of the Saints and Falcons. They can't lose at home to Carolina. I like Tampa a good bit in this football.
Okay. Big game, 325 game. It's the Niners and the Eagles in Philly. The Niners giving 3 on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles.
This point spread is, wild. Because, you'd think when Niners are at Eagles are 10-1, beat them in the NFC Championship. Granted, obviously, the quarterback thing was a big part of that. But for Vegas to come out and say the Niners are a 3.
I know. I was reading it. That's why I naturally went Niners getting 3 at Philly.
Yeah. No, I thought the Eagles might be like a 1 or 2 point favorite at home. Like, I'm not saying that the Niners don't have a strong power ranking. For them to come out at Niners by 3, I feel like the Eagles. What's the old saying? You don't want to be on the public home underdog. I don't know if I can bet the Niners here, but I might. I just think Vegas, this line, something's up. How can the Niners be laying 3 on the road against a 10-1 team? And this is a blood revenge game for that NFC Championship too. I don't know if I could pull the trigger, but I lean Niners. And then also I kind of like under 46.5.
Yeah.
And the reason I like that is I know the Eagles had a super offensive explosion in the second half, but without Lane Johnson again, I think their O-line might get lit up by this Niners D-line. And the Bills were doing it first half, but then second half, obviously it turned around. So I'm looking at possibly Niners and under here.
Got Cleveland at the Rams. Cleveland getting 3.5 on the road against Sean McVay and company.
What a weird year Cleveland's had at 7-4. Crazy year. So the thing about this game, I would take Cleveland in the points, but I don't know what's going on with Myles Garrett's shoulder, and he's the NFL Defensive Player of the Year right now. I mean, he's been unbelievable. And if he's out, I just think that's like such a gutting loss for Cleveland, because for them to win this game, that D-line's got to dominate the Rams O-line and make life hell for Stafford. So, I mean, if Garrett plays, I might look at Cleveland. I like the under if Garrett plays at 39.5. I think it's going to be an uglier game. But if Garrett's out, I'm out.
The Sunday night game, it's the Chiefs at Green Bay. The Packers coming off that really strong performance in Detroit. The Packers getting 6 at home against the Chiefs.
I always admit when I'm wrong. I think my Jordan Love, if Jordan Love's playing football, bet the under theory, may be dead. He's really had great command of this offense the last couple of weeks. He's taken huge steps forward. The Chiefs finally, after they got down 14-0 to the Raiders, look like themselves the way they bounced back last week. This is kind of one of those things, though. I mean, I just can't bet on Jordan Love against Patrick Mahomes. I just can't do it. I don't know what to say. I just can't pull the trigger on it. So I'm not laying the 6 on the road either. I mean, I'm just giving you the long opinion. I don't have a clue. This game's tough. 42.5 seems about like the right total. I'm probably going to just sit back and watch it. Great analysis.
I might take the over, actually. And then
yeah, I can see that. I think the Chiefs' offense did play a little better. The only thing about this Chiefs' offense, though, right now is I know Rashid Rice, the rookie, starting to look good at receiver. Kelsey is getting bracketed and double teamed, and he's also, you can tell, he may have lost a step a little bit with all the injuries he's had. I don't think he's as explosive. So Pacheco's really their only explosive guy they've got right now, and so they're running the ball more and being balanced, and he's looked great. I mean, I think keep betting the Pacheco rushing overs is a good way to go. But yeah, I might look at it. I don't know. That's, like I said, tough game.
And then the last game of the weekend, when they scheduled this, they thought this would be a really exciting game, and it's not going to be. Cincinnati without Joe Burrow, getting 8.5 on the road at Jacksonville. The Jags just got through with the big win in Houston. They have kind of taken a stranglehold of the AFC South. They look like a contender at times. 8.5's a bunch of points, but man, I'm just not sure that Cincinnati can score with Jake Browning at quarterback.
I like Jacksonville here. I think they made this line over a touchdown for a reason, to discourage action on Jacksonville. And I mean, they're 8-3. They're fighting for the 1 seed. It's going to be, think about how fired up this fan base is going to be for a Monday night home game at 8-3.
Mm-hmm.
After everything they've been through the last few years, and now they're good. I think this is a spot Jacksonville, if they're what they're supposed to be, this is a spot you should win by a couple touchdowns. And just like you said, the Browning thing. And Cincinnati does have a good defense, but they're like a little better pass D than run D. I wouldn't be surprised to see Etienne have a big game here.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, I think I agree with that completely. Hey, I know you got a big weekend ahead of you. Got a lot going on. Enjoy the run. That's the other piece of advice I have for you is soak it in. Enjoy it.
Oh, I am, man. Like I said, Neal, like I'm like a little bit too, I think the older you get, the more sentimental you get about things. And I got to give a shout out to an Ole Miss buddy of mine that's kind of behind the scenes guy named Tyler Torbett that's going to run this with me. And he's actually, he quit drinking like 6 months ahead of me a few years ago. And he's been like a mentor. And, we've been on this whole journey together, encouraging each other on the alcohol and running. And he's coming all the way from Atlanta, leaving his 2 kids this weekend to run this half marathon with me. And he's training for like an ultra, but he's literally just going to run it with me, clipping me on his phone for Barstool the whole time. And I just got to give him a shout out because very blessed to have a friend like that in my life. And it's going to be a very special deal. And also, last thing, Wake Up Mincy next Tuesday, 8 a.m. We're back, and we're not going to get canceled this time.
That's awesome. I'm excited.
No more rap karaoke. I assure you that.
Hey, and next week might be a big week in Chicago, man. I mean, I'm holding out hope.
Yeah. So, they're after Ohtani. Anybody else there?
Ohtani's the big one, but I think after they'll adjust if they don't get him. They'll go with whatever. But there's some buzz about Ohtani making a decision next week, whether it's Dodgers or Cubs or Giants or whatever. So it could be a big week in Chicago.
Yeah, well, I look forward to like when it's slower for you in the summer and it's hot in the South. You know, me and you, we got to do a Wrigley trip this summer.
Absolutely, I'm always in for a Wrigley trip.
Love to do it.
All right, appreciate you, and as always, enjoy your weekend. Good luck with your run, and we'll see. Maybe I'll see you on Saturday.
Good. See y'all in the pavilion on Saturday. If y'all see me, say hello. I'm really excited.
That's Ben Mintz. Until next time, take care. That was Ben Mintz. Appreciate his time, as always, on the Oxford Exxon podcast. That wraps it up for our week of podcast here on the network. A lot of content for you yesterday. We had a podcast, obviously, The Butcher versus the Dance Instructor. There's the Josh Hendrickson Show. Brian Rippey. There's a whole lot there for you this week. Hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the games. Ole Miss, Memphis basketball, 1 o'clock on Saturday in Oxford. I'll have coverage postgame. And bowl announcement Sunday night. Lane Kiffin will speak to media, we're told. So we'll have that for you on Sunday evening as well. And then back Monday for another Oxford Exxon podcast. Until then, have a great weekend.